The unexpected arrival. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had stood for 12,000 years as a beacon of interstellar cooperation. Its translucent crystal dome, spanning half a kilometer across, reflected the light of 3 suns and countless stars. Today, that majestic dome trembled, not from structural weakness, but from the thunderous voices of 200 species locked in desperate argument. The Vandari horde had breached the outer defensive perimeter of Sector 7, and entire worlds were going dark. The death toll had reached trillions. High Counselor Jen Tal, her scaled skin shimmering with stress-induced bioluminescence, raised all 4 of her arms. Silence, she roared, her voice amplified by the chamber's perfect acoustics. We are the Galactic Council. We have survived the quantum plague, the hive mind rebellion, and the black hole crisis. We will survive this. The chamber quieted, but the fear remained palpable. The Vandari were unlike anything the galaxy had faced before. A species that consumed not just resources or territory, but the very essence of sentient life itself. The Defense Coalition has lost 47 capital ships in the last rotation, announced Admiral Crix, his exoskeleton clicking nervously. The Vandari adapt to our weapons faster than we can develop new ones. At current projections, they will reach the core worlds in 3 standard months. A wave of murmurs rippled through the assembly. Perhaps, suggested Delegate Morovax of the Silicon Collective, it is time to activate the Omega Protocol. We could evacuate the essential population to the emergency habitats beyond the galactic rim. Abandon our worlds. Our history. Challenged Ambassador Liar of the Photonic Consciousness. That would mean the end of civilization as we know it. The debate had started to spiral again when every light in the chamber suddenly dimmed. The massive doors to the hall, doors that hadn't been opened without prior announcement in 700 years, began to part. Guards readied their weapons, preparing for the worst. But what entered wasn't a threat. At least not an immediate one. 3 figures walked in, bipedal and clearly mammalian. Their appearance was striking in its simplicity compared to the varied evolutionary paths represented in the chamber. Just 2 arms, 2 legs, and a single head with forward-facing eyes. Humans. The Council had only the vaguest knowledge of humanity. They were a young species from a backwater system, barely space-capable by galactic standards. Their system had been briefly surveyed 5 centuries ago and deemed pre-emergent, not yet ready for contact. Yet here they were, walking with purpose toward the central platform as if they belonged. The lead human was tall and lean, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. She wore a simple gray uniform adorned only with a small insignia, a stylized Earth surrounded by stars. The 2 humans flanking her were similarly dressed, though one carried what was unmistakably a data archive, and the other wore what could only be a weapon system integrated into his very body. High Counselor Jen Tal recovered first. This chamber is closed to non-member species. How did you breach our security? The lead human smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Your security recognized our credentials. Impossible, sputtered Admiral Crix. Your species hasn't even been issued observer status. Not your credentials, the human clarified. The ones we took from the Vandari command ship we destroyed 3 days ago. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the ambient systems of the chamber seemed to hold their breath. I am Fleet Commander Amara Chen of the United Earth Defense Force, the human continued. This is Dr. Elias Okafor, our xenobiologist, and Security Chief Raven, our insurance policy. The cyborg human didn't blink or move, his augmented eyes scanning the room methodically. You expect us to believe, Admiral Crix said slowly, that your primitive species managed to destroy a Vandari command ship when our combined fleets have failed repeatedly. Dr. Okafor stepped forward, activating a holographic display from the device he carried. It projected a massive ship, bristling with organic-looking appendages, being systematically taken apart by smaller craft using weapons the Council had never seen before. The Vanduri are formidable because they adapt to energy-based attacks, Dr. Okafor explained, his voice calm and academic. Your civilizations have relied on plasma, laser, and quantum weaponry for millennia. We, however, still remember how to use kinetic force. The hologram showed missiles, simple in design but devastating in impact, ripping through the Vanduri hull. Barbaric, someone muttered. Effective, Commander Chen corrected. The Vanduri entered our space 6 months ago. They took 3 colony worlds before we understood what we were facing. We lost 8 billion people. Her voice didn't waver, but her hands tightened into fists. We studied them. We adapted. We counterattacked. And now we're here because they're heading toward the core worlds. And based on your panic, you have no idea how to stop them. High Counselor, Gental's bioluminescence pulsed with indignation. You presume to lecture the Galactic Council. Your species has barely achieved faster than light travel. And yet, Commander Chen said, we're the only ones who've stopped a Vanduri advance. We're not here to lecture. We're here to offer an alliance. Delegate Morovax's crystalline structure vibrated with suspicion. What could Earth possibly want from the Council? Recognition, Chen answered immediately. Full membership, access to your technologies, and assistance rebuilding our colonies once this is over. Preposterous, Admiral Crix chittered. You can't possibly expect. What we expect, Chen interrupted, her voice hardening, is for you to survive. The Vanduri aren't just another conquering species. They're a force of nature. Either we stand together, or we all fall separately. Earth has chosen to stand. She nodded to Dr. Okafor, who expanded the hologram to show fleet formations and tactical analyses. We've prepared a joint defense plan. Our ships are small but numerous. Your capital ships have the power we lack. Together, we can create a defense that the Vanduri can't adapt to. Security Chief Raven spoke for the first time, his voice augmented and resonant. We have also brought the coordinates of the Vanduri breeding world. We found it in their ship's navigation data. The chamber erupted in exclamations. Finding the Vanduri origin point had been impossible. Their ships self-destructed rather than be captured intact. How? Demanded Admiral Crix. How did humans accomplish what our best intelligence operatives couldn't? Commander Chen's expression hardened. Because we don't just fight to survive, Admiral. We fight to win. When the Vanduri took our colonies, they made a crucial mistake. And what was that? Asked High Counselor Gental. Chen looked straight at her, unwavering. They made humanity angry. The words hung in the air, simple yet profoundly disturbing to the assembled delegates. Most galactic species had evolved beyond such primal emotions eons ago, viewing them as dangerous relics of a primitive past. Dr. Okafor continued the briefing, detailing the vulnerabilities they had discovered in Vanduri biology and ship design. The council members listened with growing attention, their earlier dismissal fading as the humans displayed knowledge that had eluded their best scientists. We will need immediate clearance for our fleet to enter council space, Commander Chen concluded. 200 combat vessels are waiting at the edge of your detection grid. We didn't want to cause alarm by arriving unannounced. 200 vessels. Admiral Crix seemed shocked. Your species has built 200 interstellar warships in the brief time you've had the technology. Security Chief Raven's augmented lips curved into what might have been a smile. We've always been good at building weapons, Admiral. It's a human specialty. High Counselor Gental conferred quietly with her inner circle, their whispers creating a soft hiss throughout the chamber. Finally, she straightened to her full 3-meter height. The Council will consider your proposal, Commander Chen. In the meantime, your vessels will remain where they are. Chen shook her head. That's not how this works, Counselor. We didn't come to ask permission. We came to inform you of what's already happening. Our fleet is moving into position at the Vanduri front as we speak. You can join us, or you can watch from here as we do what you couldn't. The audacity stunned the chamber into silence again. This is unprecedented. Tal finally managed. No species has ever. No species has had to. Chen interrupted. But humanity has always thrived when our backs are against the wall. The Vandari pushed us there. And now they'll learn what happens when humans push back. She turned to leave, then paused. We'll transmit coordinates for a joint command center. Send your best tacticians and ships, or don't. Either way, humanity will be fighting for all sentient life in this galaxy, whether you acknowledge us or not. As the three humans walked out, leaving the council in disarray, Dr. Okafor leaned toward Commander Chen. Do you think they'll join us? He asked quietly. Chen's expression remained impassive. They'll have to. Their pride won't let humans save the galaxy alone. And as the doors closed behind them, the council erupted into the most heated debate of its 12,000-year history, not about whether to fight alongside humans, but about what it meant for the future of the galaxy if such a young, volatile species could do what they could not. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The greatest test. The Joint Command Center was a hastily repurposed Galactic Council outpost in the Saren system, the last defensible position before the core worlds. It had been 3 standard weeks since the humans had stormed into the council chamber, and reality had shifted in ways few could have imagined. Admiral Crix stood before a tactical display showing the positions of the combined fleet. His exoskeleton clicked rhythmically, a sign of extreme stress among his species. Beside him, Commander Chen studied the same data with intense focus. Your insertion strategy is reckless, Crix said. Sending light frigates directly into Vandari formation violates every established combat doctrine. Chen didn't look up. That's precisely why it will work. The Vandari have adapted to your doctrines. Admiral, they expect capital ships to maintain formation while smaller vessels provide support. We're inverting that approach. You'll sacrifice those crews, Crix protested. Now Chen did look up, her dark eyes challenging. Those crews volunteered. Every ship, every soldier. They know the stakes. Across the command center, representatives from 17 species worked alongside humans, integrating technologies and tactics that would have been deemed incompatible just weeks ago. Humanity's unexpected arrival had forced the Council to act with uncharacteristic speed. Dr. Okafor was deep in discussion with the Silicon Collective's best minds, finalizing the biological countermeasure they had developed against the Vandari neural system. Security Chief Raven coordinated with the cyborg specialists of the Mechanoid Enclave, adapting human combat algorithms to Council weaponry. The combined fleet will reach the Vandari blockade in 6 hours, announced the AI interface managing communications. Vandari forces have increased by 27% since last reconnaissance. They know we're coming, Crix observed grimly. Good, said Chen. I want them prepared for a council attack. What they'll get is something entirely different. High Counselor Tal entered the command center, her bioluminescence subdued, a sign of deep reflection among her kind. She had aged visibly in the weeks since the humans' arrival, the weight of impending confrontation etching new patterns in her scales. Commander Chen, she acknowledged, our scientists have confirmed your analysis of the Vandari breeding world. If we can deliver your bioweapon to the central nest, it could end this war. Chen nodded. That's been the plan all along, Counselor. The fleet battle is just the distraction. Tal's 4 arms gestured in a pattern that conveyed both respect and concern. I must ask you directly, Commander, why is humanity doing this? Your species could have remained hidden, built your defenses, perhaps survived while the rest of us fell. Why risk everything for a galaxy that didn't even acknowledge you? Chen was silent for a moment, considering her words carefully. There's an old Earth saying, Counselor, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We could have hidden, yes, but that's not who we are. She turned to face Tal fully. Humanity has fought itself for most of our history. We've nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. But we've learned something from those near extinctions. That survival isn't enough. We need purpose. And defending life, all life, against extinction. That's a purpose worthy of our best efforts. Gentaal's bioluminescence shifted to a pattern the human couldn't read. Your species is not what we expected. We rarely are, Chen replied with the ghost of a smile. It's one of our strengths. The countdown to fleet engagement continued as final preparations were made. The human ships, smaller and less advanced than their Council counterparts, but far more numerous than anyone had anticipated, moved into their assigned positions. They carried weapons that the Council had deemed obsolete centuries ago. Railguns that fired physical projectiles, electronic warfare suites designed to overwhelm rather than finesse, and explosives that operated on chemical rather than quantum principles. Primitive by Council standards, but the Vandery had never encountered them. In the final briefing before combat, Chen addressed the combined fleet commanders. The Vandery adapt quickly to any single approach, she explained. Our advantage is diversity, not just in species, but in tactics. Council forces will engage conventionally, drawing their adaptive responses. Human forces will then strike from multiple vectors using weapons they haven't evolved defenses against. She nodded to Dr. Okafor, who stepped forward. Meanwhile, a joint special operations team will deliver the neural disruptor to the breeding world. Once activated, it will sever the Vandery hive connection, rendering their forces disorganized and vulnerable. Admiral Crix raised an appendage. And who will lead this suicide mission? I will, said Security Chief Raven, his augmented voice cutting through the murmurs, along with volunteers from 5 Council species. The room fell silent. The mission to the breeding world had been calculated at a 93% fatality rate. Why? Asked a photonic delegate, her light form flickering with incomprehension. Why would members of different species volunteer for near-certain death? It was Dr. Okafor who answered, his voice gentle but firm. Because some things are worth dying for. The continuation of life, all life, is one of them. The battle, when it came, was unlike anything the galaxy had witnessed in recorded history. The Vandery struck first, their organic ships moving in perfect coordination like a single vast organism stretching across space. They had adapted to every Council tactic, every weapon, every defense. What they hadn't adapted to was human unpredictability. While Council capital ships engaged in a conventional front, drawing the Vandery's adaptive responses, human vessels executed maneuvers that the Council's tactical eye had classified as irrational and suicidal. They dove into the heart of Vandery formations, detonated electromagnetic pulses that disabled their own systems alongside the enemy's, and fired physical projectiles that the energy-focused Vandery had no defenses against. In the command center, Chen watched the chaos unfold with steely calm, redirecting forces as opportunities arose. Beside her, Admiral Crix's exoskeleton clicked in patterns that had shifted from stress to astonishment. Your ships are taking terrible losses, he observed. Yes, Chen acknowledged, and inflicting worse. Look at the Vandery formation. It's breaking apart. For the first time in the war, the Vandery hive mind was encountering tactics it couldn't predict or counter fast enough. The perfect coordination that had made them invincible was becoming a liability as human chaos infected their battle plan. Meanwhile, deep in Vandery space, Security Chief Raven and his mixed species team had reached the breeding world. The stealth technology of the photonic consciousness had gotten them past the outer defenses. The phase-shifting abilities of the Silicon Collective had breached the atmospheric barriers. Now Raven stood at the entrance to the central nest, the neural disruptor primed. 3 of the original 12-member team remained alive. The disruptor must be placed at the exact center of the nest, he told his surviving companions, a crystalline silicon being and a gaseous entity from the methane moons of Ta Ceti. I'll take it from here. The silicon being's structure vibrated. Your probability of survival is 0, human. Probability isn't destiny, Raven replied, his augmented lips curving into that not-quite smile. "Get clear. If this works, the Vanduri defense systems will collapse. The fleet needs to know immediately." As his companions retreated, Raven advanced into the nest, a massive chamber filled with pulsing organic structures that transmitted the hive consciousness throughout Vanduri space. At its center lay the Queen Node, a biological supercomputer that had orchestrated the deaths of trillions. Vanduri defenders swarmed toward him, their chitinous bodies moving with unnatural speed. Raven's augmentations fired, cutting them down, but they kept coming. His synthetic arm was torn away, then a leg. Still he crawled forward, the disruptor clutched against his chest. When he finally reached the Queen Node, his biological components were failing, blood pooling beneath him. The disruptor required direct contact and manual activation, a deliberate design choice to prevent remote interference. With his remaining hand, Raven pressed the device against the pulsing surface of the node and activated it. The effect was immediate and galaxy-wide. Every Vanduri ship, every warrior, every drone suddenly lost its connection to the hive mind. Coordination collapsed into chaos. Advanced tactics devolved into basic survival instincts. In the command center, Chen watched as the tactical display transformed. The perfect Vanduri formation dissolved into individual units fighting without purpose or direction. "Now," she ordered, "all ships, full advance. Target their command vessels first." The combined fleet surged forward, Council and human ships fighting side by side, turning the tide of a war that had seemed unwinnable just hours before. High Counselor Zhen Tal moved to stand beside Commander Chen, her bioluminescence pulsing with a pattern that even humans could recognize. "Hope, the breeding world?" she asked. Chen's expression remained controlled, but her eyes betrayed her emotion. "Signal received. Disruptor activated. Team status unknown." Both leaders knew what that meant. Raven and his team had succeeded, almost certainly at the cost of their lives. As the battle turned definitively in their favor, Zhen Tal performed a formal gesture rarely seen outside council ceremonies, a recognition of profound respect. "Humanity has earned its place among the stars today," she said formally. "When this is over, I will personally sponsor Earth's application for full council membership." Chen nodded, accepting the gesture for what it was, not just recognition of humanity, but acknowledgement of a new era in galactic history. "When this is over," she replied, "we'll have a lot to teach each other." The battle raged on, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. The Vanduri threat would be contained, then eliminated. And in its wake, a new alliance would form, one forged in the crucible of existential threat and tempered by the realization that strength comes in many forms. Humanity had arrived in the galactic community not as supplicants, but as saviors, not through diplomatic overtures, but through blood and sacrifice. They had proven themselves not by words, but by deeds. And the stars would never forget.